Hey everybody, welcome back. We are here with episode 93 of D-Town TV, the free show for digital SLR shooters. I'm Larry Becker, he's RC, and he's got a tip to start the show. RC, what you got?
We're talking about white backgrounds and black backgrounds,
right,
and how to be able to take a background from one color and throw it into another color. We started talking about this a couple of weeks ago actually. We were talking with Scott. And he was talking about Scott Kelby. He was talking about light issue to retouch it, and somebody had asked the question about what kind of background would be a great background to have.
Right.
I said, well, white is actually really, really good because you could take white, you could turn it gray, and you could take gray, and you could turn it black. And we got a lot of questions on that. And basically, all of that is just based on the entire concept of flash to subject distance. That's the relative proportion of distance between your subject and the background that you're working with. So here's a quick example. Now, this is a Vivitar 283, right? That's a old school, hardcore strobist. And here we have a model, right? A very agreeable model.
Handsome model.
Very agreeable model, aren't you? Yes, you are. Yes, you are. But, so when you have a flash, and you take a flash and you light a person, and you have a white background, the distance that you have between here and here, and the distance that you have between here and here, if these distances, right, the relative distance between your background in the flash and the person in the flash, if they're not all that great, then the light fall off that you see from here to here is actually going to be very, very minimal.
Right.
Right. So if you shoot this, you can have a person with the same kind of light that you have here. Now, if you want to be able to take this white background and you want to be able to make it darker, what you need to be able to do is you need to be able to make sure that the distance between the light and the person and the light and the background are greater relatively.
Right.
So the closer this person comes to this light, the distance between here and here is shorter than the distance between the background and the light. So the closer that the person comes to this, the brighter the person is going to be, which means that you have to change your f-stop and you have to change, you know, all sorts of different things. But the further that this light gets from the background, the relative distance becomes greater, and this turns darker and darker.
Right.
If you want to be able to pull it even still, you make this even closer, and you pull this further back. Now, obviously, I wouldn't hit somebody square in the face like this, but I would probably feather off like this. By feathering off in this area, not only does the light kind of go this way,
sure,
but then the distance between here and here is a lot shorter than the distance between here and here. This turns near black, or in some cases, completely black. So that's how you can actually work with lighting and taking that. And it's all about the relative distance. If the distance between these two subjects, between background and element, are relatively short to one another, not going to work. If the distances between this and this are relatively large, you're going to get a lot of fall off and a lot of darkness.
Yeah, so a white background is a very versatile background. In fact, that's probably one of the very first things that I got.
Absolutely.
When I started getting into photography. Thank you, RC.
Oh, not a problem.
And speaking of cool tips, we have something from Doug Sonders.
Oh, take a look. Hey everybody, RC here, and I'm here with critically acclaimed photographer, lover of 80s movies, and expert on the on-location commercial shoot, Mr. Douglas Sonders. Douglas, how you doing?
Thanks for the introduction, RC.
Hey, man, not a problem, not a problem. I'm a big fan.
Thank you.
Big fan. Now, for the people who may not know you, tell us a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit about what it is that you do.
Sure. Well, I mean, a lot of the jobs I'm taking now is, I'm based out of Washington, D.C., but I'm rarely home. Just enough to pet my dog and then head back. I live a mile from the airport. So like this month, I'm in 8 different cities in 2 countries.
Wow.
I just came back from shooting in China, and then I'm here, and then I'm off to Colorado. And so I'm always traveling with my 4 lights, primarily 4 lights, 4 white lighting heads, and a Pelican 1650 case, my light stands, a battery pack, and I'm gone. That's it.
Now, that actually brings us to, because I mean, you have to take a look at this website. Take a look at this website. We're going to have the website right there.
SondersPhotography.com. This way.
So we'll have it right here at the bottom. He's got amazing work, and one of the things that you wanted to be able to get is the tip is actually simple, But it's one of those things that I think that a lot of people forget, which is the process of simplicity.
That's right, exactly, RC. You want to, what I recommend to people in my workshops is that you want to, if you feel like you're overwhelmed by how am I going to do this setup, you see people's behind the scenes shots and it's like a million light setup, keep it simple. I've done huge ad shoots for major companies, major manufacturers with only 3 or 4 lights. What you do is you start with a main light and just build it one at a time. If you start trying to set everything all in there at once, you'll get crisscross lights. You'll have a light over here. You don't know if it's the light coming on the person's face from that one or this one. So just start with one really strong main light and then just build it. 2, 3, 4, catch lights, spot grids, and all that. Just keep it simple.
Well, so one light. And I think that a lot of the times that kind of stuff, like when you're taking a look at a shoot from a person who's just kind of getting involved, and then you're taking a look at somebody from a commercial, even something like cross lighting and shadows and things like that, that kind of attention to detail can only happen when you're working with just kind of building from one light and bringing yourself out further and further.
That's correct.
So, invaluable stuff. Now, if you haven't checked it out, make sure you check out SondersPhotography.com. And you're doing this actually. You're building this as part of a class, right?
Actually, yes, RC, thanks for that plug. It was good. I like how you built that in there.
It was really, really cool because now I've got inside knowledge. I've seen a little bit of what's going to happen, and it's awesome. I will say that. But talk to us a little bit about what it is that you were doing here from a class standpoint.
Sure. Well, I'm incorporating my love for explosions, and a lot of my work is very testosterone-y and action movie-esque. So we have a product, we have an iPad case that we're going to show you from pre-production to actually the shoot day to the way I do post-production with one of my primary retouchers. Essentially, you're going to see how I put together an entire advertising shoot. So if you're interested into portrait photography or even want to get a little more into advertising or learn how an advertising photographer just does this process, you're actually going to really learn on-location lighting and how I shoot for compositing. Because we're going to shoot my retoucher, like I said, on set, and he's going to be telling everybody how exactly he likes me to shoot things so we can put the elements of the background together, our portrait subjects, dropping in our product, and then putting it all in an ad.
This is going to be some amazing stuff. I personally can't wait, and I'm ever so grateful. So Douglas Sonders, thank you so much.
Thank you, RC. Really appreciate it.
Mama always said, you gotta preserve the present for those in the future. I think that's what my Romance and Landscape series was all about. I shot for 6 days, 12 hours, and 34 minutes straight. I'm pretty tired. Think I'll go home now.
Thanks. Now, that's something that a lot of the times, like people, I appreciate, right? When a photographer just goes, hey, let's take a look at just random gear. This is the kind of stuff that I work with. This is the kind of stuff that I use. Just a little peek like that is always a really, really good thing.
I always like that post on everybody's blog where they say what's in my bag.
Yeah, I think it's
cool
great.
Stuff.
Good. But hey, you have a tip.
I do, and mine is about software settings in your camera and post-processing capabilities of the software that's built into cameras. Now, DSLRs have had more and more and more and more software added to them all the time, and there's even post-processing now, and this is not what I'm talking about, retouching. There's a whole set of retouching features in my camera and in a lot of DSLRs these days, and that's not what I'm talking about, and in fact, I don't use any of that, and that's just me personally. But what I want to talk to you about is the kinds of settings that you might set in a camera when you very first get it. One of the first things that I've heard Scott recommend that you do is change the color space from the default color space of sRGB to Adobe RGB, because we know that the gamma is going to be wider, and it matters mostly with JPEGs because JPEGs are fully processed inside the camera as opposed to like a camera raw file.
A lot of the times I usually tell people that it's almost kind of like crayons.
Yep.
Right, so it's like, you know, working with sRGB is almost kind of like working with like a pack of 64 crayons.
Sure.
Whereas working with Adobe RGB,
quite a few more crayons.
So look at it from a crayon standpoint.
But beyond that, there are other controls inside the camera. So things like on mine, and I'm just going to give you a quick list of mine and my settings and then a little bit of the logic behind it. I have the picture control in mine set to neutral. I have the long exposure noise reduction and the high ISO noise reduction turned off. And I'll tell you about that in just a second. And then also I have minimum JPEG compression. So anytime I do capture JPEG images, and in fact, since my camera has 2 memory card slots, I capture one set as RAW and one set as JPEG, and sometimes I'll pull out the JPEG card and just use those real quick, and I have minimum JPEG compression. So let me tell you just a little bit about my philosophy on the noise reduction thing. I try and tell my camera to do minimal processing, and some cameras, some older cameras that I've had, have settings in them for correcting sharpening, you know, adding sharpening to the image and doing just minor post-processing things. Adobe Photoshop and Lightroom do so much better on post-processing images that if I'm shooting camera raw and I want to bring them in, I want the camera to do nothing. Capture the best image it can, but then do nothing, and I'll handle it all in post-processing. But that's my approach. Now, I was talking with Brad about this earlier, and Brad said, yeah, but you know, there's the logic that Nikon knows better than anybody what Nikon's noise challenges are going to be. So you might want to check and do some side-by-side testing. And I absolutely agree that if you don't know if your post-processing noise reduction, for example, is going to be better than the Nikon's, shoot some with and some without the noise reduction turned on in software. See what kinds of post-production you have to do with it then, and do some side-by-side comparisons. I would also say, though, that with older cameras, noise reduction technology and any kind of post-production photo finishing was kind of limited to whatever it was back then. So I have a D200. Well, if I take pictures with my D200, even with the best noise reduction available at the time the D200 was new, well, these days, noise reduction software in Lightroom and in Photoshop and in Camera Raw, way better, light years better. And so I would always turn that off. But current model cameras, current model settings, you might want to do a little bit of side-by-side comparison. The other thing is, if you're not real good at Photoshop or Lightroom, you might let the camera do a little bit of it until you join Kelby Training and learn how to get really good at it, and then you'll do your own post-processing. But I try and get my camera, so just my approach and why. I try and get my camera to do as little post-processing as possible, and then I try and finish that all up myself in Lightroom or Photoshop.
Oh, very, very cool. So just kind of zeroing out and then just kind of working from there and building up from it.
Yeah, and you say zero out. Be careful, because the camera comes with some settings already turned on. I have to go in and find them and turn them off.
Okay.
Okay, so it's not just a matter of zero out, it's a matter of find them, turn them off.
Okay, very, very cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mr. Becker.
Yeah, man.
Let's get and take a quick break. When we come back, we've got tons of different things.
Yeah.
Right, we've got sponsors, we've got a photographer site, we've got prizes. Yeah, stick around, you're gonna wanna see this.
Hi, I'm Joe McNally. I'm teaching a series of classes on location lighting for Kelby training. One I'll talk about right now is the specific class called Light Shaping Tools. We're going to change the light. We're going to move from point A to point B to point C to point D, and on, going forward, we're going to take a look at what light does for us. Always remember, light is the language of photography. It's how we speak, and we have to know how to speak eloquently, especially when our subject matter is another human being.
Hey everybody, welcome back to D-Town TV. The show's sponsored by our buddies at KelbyTraining.com. You know, Kelby Training it's so easy to recommend Kelby Training. I love going out there and meeting people at like trade shows and stuff like that. And if they recognize me from D-Town or from Kelby Training, it really does make me proud. It's not like I'm embarrassed by, oh, well, we've got some great classes and some kind of, it's all top-notch stuff, because when Scott was putting together Kelby Training, he said, we've just got to have the best instructors that are out there.
Absolutely.
And that explains why you're there.
Oh, that also explains why you're there.
But I wasn't going for that. But the instructors are the best of the best. And we have classes that are inspirational classes and classes that are instructional, informational, just the best of the best. And you're not going to find some local guy that's popular for teaching Photoshop in Tuskegee, and no offense, Tuskegee, but I mean, you're going to find the best in the nation, the best in the world, and those people come here and film classes for us for Kelby Training. So anything you want to know about photography, Photoshop, Lightroom, Photoshop Elements, Dreamweaver, getting your images posted to the web, cool stuff, KelbyTraining.com.
Nice.
Thank them by being a customer.
Nice,
and we'll keep doing this show.
Yeah.
Hey, you've got a photographer. Speaking of great photography.
So this is one of those things where I think it's really, really cool. The advent of like things like 500px,
right,
and the advent of Google Plus allow you access to all of these different photographers that you may or may not have known, but that kind of come up and are doing some really, really interesting things. Now, please, I'm going to apologize ahead of time, because I know that you told me once and I forgot, but it's Elia Locardi. It's either Elia or Elia, and I don't remember which one it is, but either one of those pronunciations is going to get you to a photographer who's just phenomenal. Take a look at the stuff here. So I'm at 500px.com, and he's just got some beautiful, beautiful work. And this was a visual effects artist that actually turned photographer and started exploring more of the passion of the photography, and just has some phenomenal things. This is one of my favorite images. I just think it does really, really nice. It's got wonderful colors. It's just interesting. So make sure you take a look at this guy. You can also go to his website, and he's got a website called blamethemonkey.com, which I think is great. You can't forget that. That's a good tip. A lot of the times in domain names, a lot of the times people get into photography and they're like, oh, well, I need to be able to find a domain name for me, but my name is John Smith, so I'm going to call myself John Smith Photography. You don't have to call yourself John Smith. You need to take your URL and make your URL memorable. Whatever it is that you can do it. There's a company called Red Interactive. You know what their website is? ff0000.com. I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Geeky, it's awesome. But it's like memorable. You know what? You won't forget blamethemonkey.com. So good job on you. Phenomenal images. Something you should look at.
Very cool. Thanks, RC. I do love those images. They're so vivid.
Dude, he's really good. He's really, really good.
Unbelievable.
Contest time.
Yeah, hey, we're going to give away. Now, last time we gave away the Light It, Shoot It, Retouch It book, and it's a great book, and I think I want to give that away again as well. But did you know there's also a 3-DVD set? Yeah, so we're going to give away this to one person and this to another, and what you have to do to be eligible to win these great prizes. Oh, you have something else?
Oh, yeah. Look at this. We're going to give away 3 prizes.
What you got?
Dun, 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 dun.
Please don't do that.
Eye stabilizer. The eye stabilizer. So if you have an iPhone and you want to be able to stabilize it, you can Android, BlackBerry, Windows Phone, whatever it is, it's going to grab it, it's going to keep it stiff, and you can take great pictures with it.
Very cool. All right, so one person each will win this, and what you do is go to D-Town TV. Well, that's actually kelbytv.com/dtown.
That's right.
And leave us a comment. And it can be something like, I really like RC's tip this week.
Or I really like Larry's tip.
No.
Or we like Doug Sonders' tip. Whichever one.
Yes.
So leave us some comment. Leave us some praise. Leave us some criticism. Talk about
no criticism. No, not this week. I've had enough of that crap. No criticism.
Okay.
All good stuff this week. Just this week. Next week we'll go back to criticism.
Nice. That sounds good. All right. Speaking of next week, we hope that you come back.
Yeah.
After all these prizes. You might want to see what we're going to give away next week, at bare minimum.
His name is RC.
This is Larry.
We'll see you guys.
Take care.